Welcome to the highly anticipated third season of the Single Dads Unplugged, where we embark on the profound exploration of the unique challenges and triumphs faced by single fathers. This season, we delve deep into the realm of emotional resilience, unraveling the layers of strength that single dads exhibit as they navigate the complexities of parenthood on their own, from coping with the emotional rollercoaster of solo parenting to finding solace in unexpected places. Our episodes aim to inspire and empower single fathers on their journey. In Season 3, our focus extends beyond the individual, shining a spotlight on the invaluable bonds forged between single dads and their children. We bring you heartfelt stories of connection and growth, showcasing the remarkable ways in which these fathers nurture and strengthen the familial ties that define their lives. Moreover, we address the crucial intersection of financial and emotional well-being, offering practical insights and advice to help single dads not only survive, but thrive in their role as primary caregivers. As we navigate the intricate landscape of co-parenting challenges, our aim is to provide a supportive space for single fathers to share experiences and glean wisdom, fostering a sense of community and resilience in the face of adversity.
Welcome to the Single Dads Unplugged Season 3, and welcome again. And we are all about building bonds and helping fathers or empowering fathers become better dads to their kids. And this is again your host, Stembiso Pagati. With me now, I have Dr. Seletswane. Welcome, and how are you doing?
I'm good. Stay.
Great. And you were part of Season 1. It's been were you part of Season 1 or 2?
Season 2.
Season 2. How are you feeling?
I'm good. I'm excited.
Great. Good to see you. Yeah. And well done on Season 2. I was actually watching our conversation in the panel, and I was trying to understand what were we talking about at the time. And I realized there's just so much to talk about with you around parenting. First off, maybe tell our viewers again what it is that you do in your profession and what kind of challenges and issues that you're tackling around parenting or co-parenting.
Okay. I'm a psychologist by profession, so I'm in private practice, and I also do consulting, mainly HR consulting work. So in terms of the kind of cases that I come across in private practice when it comes to co-parenting, I mean, it's the usual ones are, how do we agree on decisions that we make around the child as co-parents, right, to a child. And again, the conflict that arises from us having different value systems around how we want to parent, right? Or disagreements around how we want to parent. So those are normally what happens where people are not on the same page.
On the same page.
It's about really how do they find a bridge between their differences to find a way that there's an agreement.
Especially when they don't live together. They're parenting someone. It could be one of them with custody, and then they don't live together. Have you found that these problems emanate particularly when they're or maybe romantically the two are no longer involved? Or is it common with any kind of relationship?
Look, it happens, it's a common thing, but it becomes heightened when there are feelings that are involved, where the one party is still probably upset, angry, frustrated that the relationship has ended, and that's how they use their access and denying access and disagreeing
to spite the other partner, or
the other party.
How do you convince them that we get it, you're no longer together romantically, but unfortunately you're raising a human being? How do you convince them that it's always, or it should always be about the needs and the interests of the child?
Look, the first thing you start with is to let them know that with everything, there's an end to it, right? And when there's an end, it means you start grieving or mourning, right? The relationship that was. And you look forward to what could be. And I think most people they stay a long time in the face of thinking what could have been. Maybe things could have changed. Maybe this relationship could have been better over time. But the point is, it's complete. It's done. It's run its course. Now it's for you to look forward.
To focus on
and
the
to
other
focus
person.
on that young person, and
The
you're
young person.
doing your life alone without this person, but be also recognizing that there is a child who needs you to understand that this time around it's not about you.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Yeah.
now about them, and really removing yourself from emotionally from your partner as somebody that was your love partner, but to see them as a parenting partner to your
Yeah.
child. So it's that mind shift.
Someone in a previous conversation was saying, because in most situations it's females or mothers that have got custody of the child, and they will prevent access to the child or prohibit the father to see the child, so that they feel hurt, they feel angry, they feel upset. And is there some kind of intervention to coach mothers just not to do it, and to maybe to focus on other things to make the other party upset or anything like that?
Yeah.
Is there some kind of interventions or approaches you use in the practice to coach the mothers, to
Yeah.
discourage them from
Yeah.
doing those things?
So the first thing I say to them is, remember, this is about your child's well-being. Yeah.
Sure.
So if you deny access, then you're denying a child's ability to learn certain skills from their dad and
Okay.
get some kind of an attachment, right, from a dad, because a dad is as important as a mother. So
Definitely.
whatever you do as a mom, there are things that you cannot do which the dad can do.
And
So-
vice versa.
And vice versa. And now when you leave that gap open, who's going to close the gap? And at the later stage, that's when we find kids starting to have certain problems, social
Yeah.
problems, relational problems, emotional problems, because they don't sense they didn't develop a sense of trust in the fact that there's a dad here, and that there's certain
And
things
there's
that
a
I trust,
vacuum.
that when
Yes.
he's here, they are taken care of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
What,
that's
what
it.
is the emotional or psychological impact to a child where they feel there's this absence of the father figure in their lives? And someone was saying, as part of season 3, I think it's 2-3 episodes back, that the kids end up exhaling and pouring to someone else that they see as a father figure, when that someone else is actually not prepared to deal with those issues, and those issues need a father.
Yeah.
Is there, what kind of impact, emotional or otherwise,
Yeah.
to the child because of that?
So a child, let's say a boy child that wasn't raised with the father absent,
Yeah.
present. Sorry.
Present.
So this child would obviously develop a sense of anger, right? Frustration, and obviously rightfully so, because
Of course.
the other kids are talking about daddy did this, I was with daddy doing that, and you start comparing your life with others, and you develop resentment. And as a dad, as a father, as a boy, when you grow older and you're a young adult, there are certain skill sets that you didn't develop, right? From just always staying in that space of anger, and some of them start developing anger issues because you're not able, when you're young, you're not able to provide a kind of language to what you're feeling, or to express your emotions and really explain what's going on. So you sit with things that you bottle in, and at a later stage, what I've seen normally with my clients or patients,
Sure.
it's men who were not raised with by their fathers
Themselves.
who now
have
always
kids.
say, I'm not going to be like my dad, right? That's what the story is as they were growing up. I'm going to be present. I'm going to be at their school games,
Yes.
all of that, or school matches, all of that. But the reality turns out to be they actually become like their fathers who were absent.
So they repeat the
They
cycle.
repeat the cycle. So you become exactly what you give energy to.
Yeah.
So that
yeah.
anger, resentment becomes your reality. So now it's about understanding that you cannot live your life giving that so much energy, the anger, the
Yeah.
frustration that your dad was not here,
Yeah.
because you will eventually become that.
You'll become that. But
Yeah.
how do you coach fathers to basically break that cycle? I know it's hard.
Yeah.
As a father myself,
Yeah.
I mean, I was making an example in the
Yeah.
previous conversation that when I started having kids, I was always tempted to raise them the same way I was raised. And I had to
Yeah.
remember it's a different generation. Their expectations, needs, wants, and demands are different.
Yeah.
So I had to always remind myself that
Yeah.
maybe, just maybe, I need to let go of the practices that I was exposed to as a son.
Yeah.
do you find that it's easy to make them, fathers, actually embrace this new way of living for the young people that we raise today? Or is it difficult? And what kind of advice you give them?
Look, raising a child, I can imagine, I don't have kids, so I can imagine it must be difficult, right?
It is difficult.
So
Ask me,
it's
yeah.
challenging, and,
Yeah.
and I don't go in there undermining the challenges that they deal with. But
Sure.
the thing is, you have to always understand that your dad, who was not there, who couldn't provide what you needed at the time, did what he could with, he did what he did with
Under the
what he knew, under the
circumstances.
circumstances that are like that. But you have an opportunity to create a different environment, a different belief system, and have your ways of saying, if challenges are like this, what can I tap into that can give me tools, skill sets to deal with this differently? Considering that times are different, challenges are different, and you now have a lot more resources to tap into to do things differently. Like this platform is one of those resources, right?
Yeah.
Where you can actually plug yourself in, hear what
Get
challenges
involved.
and what
Hear
people are
other
doing.
people are doing.
Right?
Yeah.
Unlike then, I mean, our
There was
fathers
no
didn't have
platform.
this. You do what
Exactly.
you do and you deal with the consequences later on.
Absolutely. In
Yeah.
fact, you will notice in almost all our seasons that we've recorded so far,
Yeah.
they involve storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes just listening to a father telling their story, you realize, well, maybe I'm not alone. Maybe I thought I was a unique kind of situation
Yeah.
or case.
Yeah.
In fact, someone else is dealing with the same thing. So learning from one another is always important. I want to come to this next topic, Dr. Gay, around facilitating time with the child. In your profession, how do you guide and assist single fathers to create an environment where it's easy for them to spend quality time with the kids,
Yeah.
just for the sake of getting to know one another and creating bonding?
Yeah. So I normally say go on a date with your child. I mean, if you can date a girlfriend
Or a boyfriend?
or a boyfriend,
Yeah.
you can date your child too.
Okay.
And going on a date is the child looks forward. I mean, you can imagine yourself when you were going out on a date with someone, a lady.
Sure.
You would prepare your mindset. You're excited about that. The
You'll
child
think
is
about
also
it.
you
Yeah.
think about it. You plan. It's something you look forward to. So dads
Yes.
can do that with their children, whether a daughter or son. You arrange dates. Whether it's a play date, whether it's we go somewhere.
But it has to be intentional.
It has to be. Plan it, be intentional, let the child look forward to it, and do not disappoint
Almost
the
promote
child.
the date.
Yes, and do not disappoint the child. You better show up,
Yeah.
right? And when you show up, it's your time, and you do not make any other time that comes into that space.
Yeah.
It's your time, it's only for this, and this is something that kids look forward to, and kids they always anticipate, and they always
Yeah.
want certainty around, are we doing this, are we doing that, and they look
It
forward
can't be
to
a
that.
gray area.
It can't be a gray area.
One lady approached us and said, listen, I like what you guys are doing as Single Dads Network, but let me tell you my story. She is separated. She was never married with the father of her twin girls. I think they are 15, if not 13 now. She says he used to promise them that, listen, this time I'm going to pick you up at school. And if it's their birthday, he would send cake or send a driver to pick them up.
Yeah.
And then it got, and he would never show up.
Yeah.
Then it got to a point where the kids, because now they're teenagers, they said, listen, Mom, why do you still allow Dad to make these promises and never fulfill them? And why don't you just break it up? And we just look to you to provide for us. And this came from the girls. And then she was saying, what do I do as a mother when I don't want to lose hope on the dad? I still want him to be part of their lives. But he just makes promises that he never fulfills. What would you advise a mom in that situation? Should she go ahead and say, listen, I'm blocking you to have access to the kids because you are unreliable, you cannot be trusted, or she must just keep hoping that he's going to change?
So obviously the mother's heart is in the right place, right? She wants what's best for their
For the
kid.
kid.
To say, I don't want to be the one that gets blamed later on to say, I blocked you
Yeah.
from accessing your father. But when kids are old enough to see what's happening and the damage, because they feel
They can feel the
sadness
disappointment.
and the disappointment. And as they say that to you as a mom, it's feedback. It's feedback that says to you, we are not okay with these situations, and we
And it can't perpetuate. It can't continue.
And we feel like you, as an adult, you can make a different decision to what you've been making, because you keep making the same decisions with the same results or same outcome.
It doesn't change.
And all it does is just anticipation and frustration, disappointment. So when there's
and
no
the resentment, the damage, and
Yeah.
the resentment, the misgivings that the kids are having against or towards the dad are quite incredible. And to recover from that, I would imagine, even if it does change eventually, to recover from that and to begin to trust him again is a journey, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, because you learn to.
And there's going to be a lot of work he has to do on his side to regain the trust, if he ever had the trust.
Yeah, because you start having difficulties dealing with disappointments, because you learn the habit of, I have expectations, and in my head expectations are met, but then when disappointments happen, you don't have any other effective ways or methods of dealing with disappointments. So you find yourself being re-traumatized every time, because you go on with life thinking people are going to say things and they're going to disappoint me. So it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Prophecy,
so,
yes.
Rightfully so, you said you lack trust. So you start not having trust because you don't believe that people say things and do them, or people say things that they mean. Right?
Yeah.
So you go on with life having developed that kind of...
It creates resentment.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a dangerous thing to do.
Dr. Gay, also as part of this season, we spoke to another psychologist, a parenting psychologist, 2 episodes back. I relate a story where I saw a Minister of Health visiting Helen Joseph Hospital here in Johannesburg on the 1st of January. Congratulations, mothers that gave birth to babies on the 1st of January. And then the statistic was there were 100 babies born at that hospital on that day. 28 of them were by teenagers. So that's about 28% of those, on just that day only, the kids that were born by teenagers. Now, the question to you is, obviously, this is an issue, and if we assume that the fathers are also teenagers or thereabout, or slightly maybe older, but in that early 20s maybe. So, what can we do to create awareness, especially at high school level, around teenage pregnancy? But I also want to focus more on the boy child, because we were saying earlier, this network keeps focusing on the dads, but who's talking to the boys that are going to become dads? Because we can see they are becoming dads at their teenage level and even early 20s. What can we do as this network, partnering with organizations and professionals like yourselves, to create awareness at high school level around, if you start being a dad at 19, at 20, you are basically signing up for a project of 20, 18 years from now. And are you really signing up to be there as a father?
Yeah.
Or is it just playing around? And by the way, before you answer, are parents doing enough to create awareness in homes around teenage pregnancy, family or birth control, and talking to the young boys around those kinds of things?
Look, I can't say parents are doing that or are not doing that, right? Ideally, it should be happening.
Okay.
So
Clearly it's not.
Well,
I think.
Maybe parents do say something, right? But the kids go on and do what they want to do,
okay.
right? And there's that. We cannot almost undermine the fact that people are going to continue doing what they want to do, regardless of what is right, what is wrong, and that has been made clear, right?
Yes.
So to the boy, the young men that are becoming fathers at a young age, the sad part is you are a young adult, or you are still a teenager as well yourself.
Yes.
And now you're supposed to raise this child. First thing, you're not working.
Yes.
Second, you're probably still in school, high school, and maybe you had plans.
And how
of
ready are
becoming-
you really
and how
to
ready
be?
are you? You
to
had
be a
plans to
dad?
go to varsity, you study something, and now you have to figure out how do you balance the two.
Yeah.
Being a teenager who wants to still be a teenager, that's what you do. You're
You're still figuring life.
just figuring out things. And now you have to figure your own life as well as figure how you're going to
And
deal
it
with
changes
this other
you.
life.
And that is why young men that are having kids at that age abdicate the responsibility to either grandmom,
Grandmothers.
aunt, or
Yes.
some uncle.
Yeah.
And then they never form a relationship with the child.
Yeah, because there's a sense of provision, right? That needs to happen. You need to provide. So emotionally, financially, you have to be there. Support the young lady who's
But
going
largely
to be
emotionally, yeah.
Emotionally.
And we interviewed a lady called Tanya van der Waal. She runs her practice
Yeah.
as a psychologist. She was saying that period of 0 to 3 years in a child's upbringing or development is very crucial
Yeah.
to form bonds.
Yeah.
And if you're absent during that time, anything that you do beyond 3 years and older, you're playing catch up. You agree with that?
It is true. Yeah, you play catch up. And again, I mean, at 0 to 3, so most fathers, from what I heard in the practice, always say, this child is still young, I don't know what to do with them.
Yeah,
I
let
don't
the,
know.
let the
Even
mother
if, yes,
figure.
even if I have to play with them, what do? They don't even recognize me, that we can't even communicate. So that responsibility normally gets abdicated to the mothers.
And
or
you're playing
left to the
catch up all
mothers.
the time. And,
Exactly.
and it's even worse when you come to the child's life when they're teenagers or
Yeah.
now or when they graduate. And Togo was saying sometimes, absent fathers want to claim their kids when they now graduate
Yeah.
or start working. Or by the way, I want to be there when you attend your graduation.
Exactly.
Which is sad. You can imagine if it's 20 or 18 years later as a dad. Well, it's never too late to do the right thing, but you're going to have to do a lot of work to gain trust from that child.
Yeah.
I want to read you something. This research was published by the University of Stellenbosch, responding to the challenge of father absence and fatherlessness in South Africa. This was
Yeah.
2017 in the University of Stellenbosch. It says 63% of suicides come from fatherless homes. 80% of rapists motivated by displaced anger come from fatherless homes. 90% of homeless children come from fatherless homes. This is the big one. 85% of children with behavioral problems come from fatherless homes. Can you see the impact on society, economy, due to fatherlessness? It's not just impacting the family. It's a vicious. I mean, if 9 out of 10 homeless kids that you see in the streets are coming from fatherless homes, and I ask myself, how can a network of this kind, working with professionals like yourself, break the cycle? It looks, and by the way, this is 2017, as I said. You can imagine how the stats looks like
Currently,
now.
yeah.
It could be worse. But we must start somewhere.
Yeah.
How do we break the cycle?
Look, and if you start thinking about behavioral problems, kids are on the streets, right? They become
Yeah.
homeless, they're on the streets because there is a disjoint between what is
Yeah.
expected in the household that they grow up in terms from
They
a
look for
behavioral-
something else,
Yes,
somewhere else.
Exactly. From the behavioral point of view, you have rules as a grandmother, as
As
an
a
aunt
household.
who's raising this
Yeah.
person. And if this person doesn't agree with what you agree or what you're setting out to be the platform, to be the lay of the land, operating systems within the house, this child would obviously have to run away and leave the system because
What
it
are they
doesn't
looking
gel.
for?
But-
I wonder.
Remember, they're emotionally broken.
Okay.
And if they're emotionally broken, they are not going to be emotionally effective in making decisions.
Decisions in
right?
that household.
In that household, even for themselves. Because you also develop a sense of identity from
Okay.
your household and where you and how you raised and who are those people that are providing that kind of guidance and molding this you around values, certain values. And if you always, and from a very young age, because you were missing this connection, you were missing this voice of reason that's coming from something that when you look at yourself as a boy child and you look at the man who's your father, you see some kind of a resemblance. And
but
you
in the absence thereof, then you
who do
default.
yes.
You default. But how do you teach mothers that are confronted with a situation where there is no father in the household for whatever reason, to find a way to help the child find a father figure, even if from families, from friends, so that because to play that dual role of being a father and mother equally well is almost impossible.
Yeah.
How do you advise mothers to help the child find a father figure somewhere?
Yeah. Look, some families, as you said, will look to their uncles who are closer
Okay.
to the family. Maybe some
Someone
uncles
you
who
can
are
trust?
seen, someone you can trust, someone who is seen as a role model by others, right? Because there are certain things that we're looking for to say someone is a role model. Behavioral, some
behavioral.
kind of motivation that comes from that person, some kind of a value system that comes from that person. So churches have those people. If you go to church, if it's not church, in school, there are teachers who are in school who are really,
They can play that role.
they can, and they are willing to do that. And again, it's also making your child understand that being a father is not the same as, you know, a person who gave birth to you and you are their biological father can still be your biological father, but not be a present father and a good father that you deserve. So meaning any man who resembles certain things that you're looking for, and we know that as people, when you look at somebody, you know what you idolize, you know what draws you to that person. So the child can start identifying what those value systems are. What are those things that make them say, that's a great man.
Yeah.
And those are the people the child can start identifying. And as a mother as well, if you talk to your child and see what really appeals to them and what are they looking
That's
for,
very important.
they can actually start, you can help them identify those people in our family. Who's that person that resembles what you're looking for? And what are those things that you're
and
looking
create
at?
those connections.
And create
You
those-
remember in season 2,
Yeah.
there was a lady, a single mom that came to our show,
Yeah.
and then she was saying, actually, my two daughters have found a father figure
Yeah.
in the family, and it works.
It does.
But she allowed herself to understand and accept that I cannot be a father to them. And then she encouraged them to look for those father figures.
Yeah.
And she seemed to believe that actually they can engage with this father figure on a number of things on various levels. And sometimes she said, she even went on to say, my girls will tell me, Mom, this conversation is not for you. I'm going to bring it to the attention of my dad or
Yeah.
of my uncle.
Yeah.
And she said, that's fine.
Yeah.
And as long as it works. I'm sure you encourage something like that.
No, absolutely.
Because as long as it works.
As long as it works. And as long as you get, as a child, you get what you need. Because sometimes as mothers, we could be emotional about this thing. And we biased, right? Because all we want is, I don't want to
And
be
then we
left
give the wrong
out.
advice.
And sometimes it's not even wrong. It's what your child doesn't want to hear.
Okay.
So, and maybe not wanting to hear from you.
From you.
Yeah. And
Rather-
it happens.
rather from the father
Rather
figure.
from the father, because they're going to bring a different perspective around it as a man, if it's around issues around boys and all of that. Because as women, we're also biased, and we also have our own things that we're dealing with around men, right?
Yeah.
And then how do we become objective when it comes to that?
Yeah.
So sometimes it's that.
One
kind of
father was saying, one single father was saying to me, my daughter is 14 years old.
thing. Yeah.
I've begun monitoring that now. She goes into her biological cycle, and I'm beginning to put pads into her drawer, and I'm monitoring them.
Yeah.
And then they stopped being used, and I freaked out. But now she says, because I didn't have confidence to approach her and ask, why are you not using them, or why have you stopped using them? And then she got, he's raising this child on his own. And then he began to ask someone else to get involved. But there was this thing lingering in the back of his mind that he's thinking she stopped using them because she doesn't need them anymore and she could be pregnant.
Oh.
This is a 14-year-old. But for some reason he said, I do not have guts to ask her. And then she brought, I don't know if it's a lady friend or a girlfriend, to get involved. Meanwhile, the girl had begun to use a different method other than pets.
Yes.
Other than my question to you is, sometimes parents are conflicted, especially when they're raising a person or a child at that age, whether do I talk openly about these things, or do I allow the daughter to make her own decisions, especially when it comes to birth control.
Yeah.
What would you recommend? At that tender age, do you leave it to the devices of the child to make decisions around birth control, as an example, or do you make the decision for them?
I don't think it's always about making the decision for them. It's with them.
With them.
With them.
I like that.
Because for them means you have made up your mind. This is
They
how
are
it's
not
done.
involved.
I'm not involved. So you bringing it to me. And what if I've made my own research? What if I spoke to my friends, right? And we've explored options, and
then
maybe
I made my decisions
I made my
already.
decision.
Yeah.
So it's always about, as dads, understand that, especially if you're a single dad, if you can't go there and talk about such things, then it means there are you're going to meet other difficult challenges, like now when it's
Further
time for you
down the
to have
line. Yes.
sex, right?
Yes.
So what are you going to do there? Because now this is even bigger than somebody who's going to go through this cycle
Yeah.
every month, because that's the normal way that our
Yes.
bodies are designed to have this happen.
Yeah.
So I think that the dad has to work on how they communicate with this child, and it's really about
It reflects on their relationship.
yeah, it does.
With
It's
the
a
child.
huge reflection on why are there go areas and no go areas with
And
me.
why is it uncomfortable to
Exactly.
talk about those
Yeah.
things? Yesterday we were talking about this tripartite, if I may call it that, relationship between teacher, parent, child.
Yeah.
And then one person that came to our show was saying, teachers don't really now talk about teenage pregnancy, birth control and those kinds of things, because they leave it to the parents. Is this what you see with the patients that you deal with, where they say, listen, I'm not comfortable to talk about these sensitive issues at this stage. They're hard conversations. I'm going to rely on the teachers to do it? Or could it just be a kind of that three kind of triangle where all three are involved
Yeah.
and help the child navigate through this process?
Look, if it's a dad, for example, who says, I'm not too comfortable going
Okay.
there with the child, the dad can always say, which teacher are you close with in school? Right?
To assist me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe just to say, who are you close with? Who do you trust? Who do you like talking to in school as your
Yeah,
teachers?
that
And
you
the dad
trust.
can have that private conversation, right? If they're not comfortable going to the child directly, they can go to the teacher and say, if you talk to her because she says she's comfortable with you, if you talk to her, please find out what she's using and what she's comfortable, what she's not comfortable with, what are the other alternatives, what are options, and why is she comfortable? Could she be comfortable talking to me about this? Because I'm a bit uncomfortable. I don't
Sure.
want to make her uncomfortable. But if
Then it's a conversation.
it's a
It
see,
starts.
that's how you loop everybody
Yeah.
in. So you started with her, you wanted to find out who she's closer to, and then you go to the teacher to leverage the relationship with the child to say, please be my go-to person for
Yeah.
this thing. And then
But the child must be comfortable first. I think that's why to emphasize it.
firstly, the most important thing in all this triangle is the dad has to firstly start building a relationship with the child first, so that they can have a relationship
Trust
where they
should
can
be there.
bridge that
Yes.
I don't know if it's comfortable or I'm comfortable or not. And then the teacher can be somebody who, when the dad is unable to be present at the time because it's happening in school and dad can't be in school, this child can go to the teacher and talk about it. Whether it's not happening in schools, I'm not too sure. And I guess it could be teachers will teach, but they cannot dictate
Yeah.
what should happen. They
Yeah.
will leave that to parents, so the parents can run with
Yeah.
that on their own with the kids.
It's hard though, and again, it comes down to have got a working, effective relationship with the child
Yeah.
to be able to delve into those kinds of
Yeah.
discussions, because it starts there.
Yeah.
Because you cannot source
Yeah.
parenting to a teacher or to someone else.
But funny thing is that, Esther, when you are a dad and you're older, maybe before you become a dad or when you were dad, you had a partner whom you could go and
Sure.
buy
Yeah.
pets for. When you go to the shops and grab something, like, please buy me tampons or whatever, right?
Why can it not
so
be
why
for the
can't
child?
it be with your own child, where you say, I used to buy these things for your
It can't be
for
taboo
your mom when
when
we're
it
together.
Exactly.
So she preferred this. What do you prefer? And kids are like, they'll be like, Dad, you're so weird, but you opening a platform that says, hey, we can go there. I'm comfortable, but I'll be led by you. If you're uncomfortable, I'll stop.
Yeah.
But that's I think
but it
this
has
thing
to
happened.
start somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Second last thing before we close, Dr.
Yeah.
Gay, is around finances.
Yeah.
In this show, a lot of people that have come on our show have always said that finances or disagreements around finances are the number one thing that leads to breakups and divorces. How, in your practice, do you work with maybe other professionals to create financial wellness for parents
Yeah.
in such a way that they communicate about everything finance early enough before it becomes a burden, it becomes a disagreement.
Yeah.
Are you doing something to educate parents around those kinds of things? And this is a question that I wrote down here. How should the two parents approach decision making when it comes to finances in such a way that it benefits the child, or it is in the interest of the child?
Yeah. So, well, I always say in the sessions that there's always a responsible person and an irresponsible person
okay.
in the unit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really about when you are with someone way before the child is even born. You already know what your patterns are around money.
Yes.
And once you start bringing a third person who's going to be now benefiting or not benefiting from your habits, which you haven't ironed out. So people have to understand that there is a system, and when they bring other systems, are going to be dependent on how their system operates, right? If you're not effective here when it comes to finances, you will obviously cascade that inefficiency
it's gonna pass on
to the child. So I think it's always about know where you're becoming irresponsible with money and know where you're becoming responsible with money, and what are priorities, what are the nice to haves, what are the needs, what are the wants. And you have to always have a way of saying what are the things, what kind of a life do we want to expose our child to. And if this is a lifestyle thing, this is a lifestyle that we both can afford to give to the child. And if you can't afford, you have to be honest as parents to say,
so,
I think we're dreaming here.
and
right?
consider
It's time to stop
alternatives.
dreaming. Yeah. And
Consider alternatives.
alternatives. If you want to cater for this, it means we need to have other things that we are doing over and above what's bringing us income now, so that we can tap into that kind of, access of money, so that we can close.
I don't know why that
the
keeps
gap.
coming up all the time in these conversations, that ladies will use disagreements on finances to spite the dad. Is there an agenda? Another guest was telling me that the lady makes financial decisions around choice on schools or choice of schools without letting me know, and now suddenly I have to pay huge amounts of invoices to the school. Is there something in a woman's brain that says that I can use this to make this guy upset?
Look, I can't say scientifically there's something
Scientifically, I'm asking.
I can't say scientifically in
There's
a
nothing
human
like
brain there's something that says I want to spite him and do that, right? It's all behavior, it's human behavior.
Okay.
And maybe people are wired to say, if I don't get this, then I will do this.
I'm going to try something else.
If you don't give me this, I'm going to take that.
I'm going to take
so
that.
Maybe those are people who really like give and takes
Yeah.
in relationships, and they will play out that way. If you don't give me you as my partner,
Then I'm
then
gonna
you're
make-
not going to
make
get,
t-
I'm going to
something
make
else.
decisions where you're not involved because you don't want to be mine, right? So
Yeah.
it's an individual issue. I can't
Yeah.
say brains are wired that way.
It can't be like that for everyone.
It
And
can't. And some people are
use
playing
that.
together
Yeah.
nicely, right?
Yeah. I think, like you said, Ella, it comes down to just deciding as parents that
Yeah.
we're going to do this together. Let's forget about our individual differences, but for the sake of this human being, let's do this together. Before you go, Monica yesterday said drawing parental plans is becoming crucial these days as we see more and more families raising kids in individual family-headed homes. Have you seen this becoming a trend in your practice where parents come to you and maybe ask you help them, not legally draw a plan, but just ask them, think about the things that they have to talk about as they draw those plans?
Yeah, the first thing is, if you have a plan, it's if it's around the child, where's the money going to come from, right? If it's a
Yeah,
financial plan
sure.
around the child, where's the money going to come from? If it's about where will the child go this month or this week versus that week, what are the things that we can that we allow the child to go to? What are the decisions we make around who the child should be looked after if both of us are not there? So those are the
Yeah.
things. When you draw a plan, you can draw a plan, but you have to also remember, if you start involving a child and you implementing your plan,
Yes.
there must be consistency. And if anything changes, because remember we said child want
It
certainty.
has to evolve.
It has to, if it involves
Yeah.
the child, be certain about it, and your
Because
plan,
as they grow, also their needs
their needs change, right?
as well.
And your plan can be foolproof now for a certain age because there are certain things that happen here. But as the child grows, your plan has to evolve.
You have to evolve as well.
It has to evolve with that. But more than anything, communication around the plan. And you all have to agree around how we implement the plan. Because if you don't agree, that's when you start saying, how does the woman brain work? Why do they want to spite this person and now change something because it suits them for now?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it's that. So if you plan, you better execute. And when you execute, you become consistent. If it changes, you let the child know. And how you let the child know, it's about getting that buy-in from the child.
And it is not about you're planning for them, but you're planning also with them.
With
because
them.
you understand their inputs
Yeah.
as well, especially when they're at a place or age where they can provide input.
Yeah, and if you want to change it, involve them to say, unfortunately, we can't do this. Do you have anything else that you think maybe you want to do?
Because this
so
does
that
no
we
longer
can
make
do that?
sense.
Yeah, we replace that with that. That way there's buy-in and they feel
Makes
involved in this.
I want to say to our viewers, following the conversation, that Dr. Gay is our resident advisor to our panel of experts. And if you follow us in our network, you will realize that she keeps coming back to all our seasons that we're going to record in the future, because of time we can never finish all the topics that we want to cover. And I encourage you to subscribe to our channels or go to deadconnections.org and place your questions there. Dr. Gay and other advisors will certainly come back to you and respond in a dignified manner. Dr. Gay, thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Stay. I had fun.
We're going to talk again.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The